All right, welcome everybody. Today is the day to win your free pass to IWBC. It's a value of over $600. That's right, a value of $600 just by joining today's live show. We are going to have an online raffle. And if you comment during the show, that's right, you have to comment during the show, it will choose one lucky winner. And to top it off, if you are a corporation and you want your employees to attend, we are also giving 20% off of registration for the Industrialized Wood-Based Conference. So today is a big day. We love giving stuff away, and we have some big announcements today. There will be some big changes to the IWBC for 2022. You're going to have to stick with us and hear all about it. So with that said, let's hop right into this here. The commercial, industrial, and residential construction industries all have an opportunity to change for the better and be better prepared to address the growing housing shortage, the ever-increasing scarcity of skilled labor, and the urgent needs to reduce embodied carbon emissions by embracing industrialized construction. Off-site productivity and construction technology are fueling a surge in demand for panelized and volumetric modular solutions with mass timber and light framing. What are the internal and external factors that are driving this evolution? That's right, I said this evolution. Today we are joined by a team from Forest Economic Advisors to kick off IWBC. And IWBC is where wood-based off-site construction suppliers, buyers, and specifiers meet to explore opportunities, exchange ideas, and introduce technologies to move this industry forward. Opportunities and advancements in integrated off-site wood-based manufacturing explained by the top experts. We will be giving away, like I said, a full access pass to the Industrialized Wood-Based Conference 2021 during this show. You have to put a comment in the comment section. Just say hello. Say, hey, tuning in from Toronto or India or Saudi Arabia, wherever you are from. Let us know where you are tuning in from, and we will be able to pick our lucky winner. You'll see it flashed up and you'll see your name flashed up. All right, so today we're going to have three guests on the show. We are going to start off with Art Schmann, who is the Managing Director, IWBC, and partner, Forest Economic Advisors. And then later in the show, we have Brendan Lowney and Paul Yankee, both principals with Forest Economic Advisors, that'll be joining us on the show. So without further ado, no stranger, Art's been on this show once before. Let's bring Art in and say hello. How you doing, Mr. Art?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Dave. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's awesome to have you back on the show and see everything that's going on. And it's super exciting to be able to give away a free all-access pass to IWBC, which is something that you've been working on for years and years and years. So that is super exciting for us.
Fantastic. Yeah, and then the just to be clear too, the corporate pass basically allows a corporation to register as many employees as they like. We've had some companies that have registered 35 employees, and that corporate pass goes for with this discount a little over $1,000. Which, wow, if you register enough people, it's like $30 a person or thereabouts. So it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I would say it's a good deal. So, I mean, if we're giving away $600, then 20% off. I mean, we're giving away 800 plus, almost. Let's just round it up, close to $1,000 in value. We'll just throw it out there for the fun of it, because right. Yeah. Hey, let's say we get two corporate people to to sign up. There you have it. Listen, yeah. Art, we do this all the time, and just so everybody knows who you are and understands your background and all of your expertise and everything that you do to help drive our industry forward, why don't you take 2 minutes and tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do. And I mean, we want to know everything from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, Art. We will find out, but go ahead. You only have 2 minutes to do it.
Dave, we'd have to go too far back into the last century to tell you about everything I've done since I was born. So I think I'll roll the tape forward a little bit. In terms of my work career, I've been basically involved with engineered lumber products for over 40 years. Initially with Macmillan Bloedel, where I helped manage the R&D, market research, and commercial development of a product called Paralam. And then subsequently, I managed I actually started up the European operations for a company called Truss Joist Macmillan, where we introduced LVL, PSL, LSL, and I-joists into the European market. And then in 2009, I joined Forest Economic Advisors, yet another startup at the time. I've been with FEA now for 12 years and have enjoyed every minute of it. And with FEA, I author the Engineered Lumber quarterly service and also the Mass Timber quarterly service. Lead author on that as well. And of course, I do multi-client studies and proprietary studies for companies. And then beginning in 2018, actually goes back to 2017. My partner Paul Yonke and I happened to be in a New Zealand pub, and of course we were not consuming anything alcoholic, Dave, as you can imagine.
Oh, I can imagine not. That would just be horrible. Right,
but Paul and I were actually discussing at that point. We'd been doing work for the government of New Zealand, and we couldn't help but notice the similarities between New Zealand and North America and Australia, for that matter, and Europe and Japan, in terms of abysmal construction productivity and real problems with severe shortages of labor. Basically, I mean, this was a worldwide phenomenon, as you know. And but this is getting back to the time when McKinsey was just coming out with their reports on this as well. Anyway, we decided that that we really needed to kind of raise awareness in North America, to do our part to raise awareness. Yeah. And so, long story short, we decided that we would hold a conference. Conferences are really not a central part of our business model, but we thought that we would do this in Boston annually. And the goal basically was to bring experts from around the world to share their knowledge and also to network, basically. And so we put a lot of emphasis right from the beginning on content, and we still do. We put most of our emphasis actually on content. The first 2 years, 2018 and 2019, we had exhibits. And last year we had to go virtual as a result of the pandemic, and we decided to go virtual again this year. So the virtual conference, which begins tomorrow, of course, has no exhibits. It's all basically content. But wow, the content is fantastic, and I want to take you through some of that in a minute. Some of the presentations and so on. So
yeah, sure. Art, my first IWBC, I think, was 2-3 years ago in Boston is where I believe we first met. And the level of speakers that you had lined up for not only the keynotes, but the education session was far and above anywhere I've ever been. And I think that says a lot for, the focus of IWBC, not only just for the vendors, but for the knowledge and the value that one gets by attending your events is amazing.
Well, I appreciate that, Dave. Yeah, no, we really try to put a lot of emphasis on that. And we try to, of course, try to be current with themes. This year, there'll be more emphasis on the environment, which, of course, is quite topical these days with climate change hitting us over the head weekly. We've got that. But I'll take you. I'd like to walk you through actually a day before Paul and Brendan join us. I'd like to walk you through just very quickly. Walk you through some of the presentations. First of all, I give a shout out to our. I want to give a shout out. Next slide to our sponsor, SIGA. We're a pleasure to have them aboard with us, and you know who that is? That's Etienne Gubler.
Yeah. I know Etienne well. In fact, just had him on the show. We were at Passive House event, FIASCon, up in New York. I think it was last week, and I got to have dinner with Etienne. So I'm glad to see them sponsoring. They do an amazing job, and their products are really impressive.
They really are. Okay, next slide. And so then. When we get started tomorrow, I'm going to do a few welcome remarks, and then we're going to kick it off with Brendan Lowney and Paul Yonke, who will be joining us in about 25 minutes. And Paul and Brendan have an amazing background. They were both vice presidents with Reseed before starting up their own company Forest Economic Advisors in 2009. And so they've had a long history of doing this. They're extremely good at it. And basically, Brendan is going to be handling the macroeconomic outlook and also an outlook for multifamily and non-residential markets. And he'll touch on labor supply as well. Paul will be looking at lumber supply, lumber prices, and I'm sure they're working on their presentations as we speak. So they probably have some wonderful surprises in there for us as well. But that should be really an exciting, because a lot of people, I think, at this point, particularly with what's happened in the past year, the forecasting becomes that much more important, right? I mean, we had this incredible spike in lumber prices, and we've had all kinds of problems with the supply chain, and so they're gonna be dealing with all of that. Next slide. And then our second keynote, I'm going to go through the keynotes first, is Susan Jones. I'm sure you know who Susan Jones is. Susan is really one of the pioneers of the mass timber movement in the United States. I mean, she's done some of the early structures as an architect. She's designed some of the early structures and some wonderful work at that. But in addition to that, she actually sat on the code committee that made these big changes in the code with respect to tall wood construction, allowing tall wood construction up to 18 stories. So she's going to be talking about her firsthand experience with that. And also, she has also been a pioneer in the area of productization. So this concept of making buildings essentially products, and so that they're highly repeatable. And she'll be talking about that as well. Next slide.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that Susan's speaking in a keynote. And look at that, and Helena. I mean, this just goes to show the diversity that's starting to come into our industry. And I love this. Outstanding. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Got excited, Art.
Yeah, no, that's right. We. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, there are so many women in our industry now who are really going to the forefront and are really leading the way in so many respects. So it's wonderful to have some of them with us over the next couple of days. Helena Didlow, and she is probably one of the most knowledgeable people on the planet when it comes to volumetric modular construction with lightwood frame. She's had a number of roles with Limbach. Limbach, of course, is well known for being one of the most advanced modular builders in the world. She's had a number of roles with them and has really played a major role in making that company what it is today. So she's going to be explaining how Limbach does it, basically, as a part of her keynote.
Yeah, and if you don't know who Helena is, you should know Helena. She really is a pioneer in this space and works with a lot of companies here in the United States as well to teach us how to #build it better, as I like to say. So yeah, you don't want to miss Helena for sure.
Absolutely. And then we have the final keynote with Ivan Ropnik and Ryan Smith. I know you've had Ivan on your show, Dave, before. Yeah. And, these two gentlemen are, they're not only esteemed educators on the subject of industrialized construction, but they've really done an incredible amount of research, as you know, around the world, gathering knowledge of how industrialized construction is done in Japan, in Europe, in Sweden. And so they've basically managed to develop an awful lot of data. They have a great understanding of this topic, and so they're going to be doing their keynote on business and product platforms for industrialized construction. Should be great. And next slide. Great. Yep. Then we're going to kick things off with the educational sessions with Pat Layton. Pat is another household name in the mass timber movement in the United States, and she's going to be moderating this all-star panel. Anthony Thistleton of Waugh Thistleton. You probably know Andrew Waugh, Dave, or you may have heard of him. Anthony Thistleton and Andrew Waugh are really, they're two of the, if you like, the rock stars for mass timber in Europe. They've done I don't know how many hundred structures out of their firm in the UK. They're extremely knowledgeable on this topic. Nick Milestone, another veteran of mass timber. He's been doing this for a long time. He's worked all over the world. He's worked in Singapore and in Europe, and for a while he was actually the head of mass timber for the mass timber exercise for Katerra, and now he's back in the UK working with Sigmat. And Sigmat is actually a steel manufacturer. Interestingly enough, they're a steel fabricator, I should say, steel builder. But Nick agreed to work with them on condition that they started up a division that would do hybrid with mass timber. And so that's exactly what he's done. And so he's well qualified to speak on this topic. And finally, Franco Piva, who calls himself the Italian engineer. So he's not far from where I am at this moment. I'm in Lucca, Italy. He's not too far away, probably 150 kilometers or so, 100 miles or so away from me. And Franco has designed over 300 mass timber buildings worldwide. So he's worked all over the world. And so it's great to have him with us tomorrow. Next slide.
He doesn't look old enough to have designed that many.
He is a youngster. Next, we have a topic that's near and dear to my heart: capturing downstream / upstream value. This is where I think things are going in the mass timber industry. Basically, I think companies are beginning to move beyond simply making CLT and glulam. They're looking at various forms of what we call additive manufacturing. And so these folks are going to be talking about that. Erica Spiritos actually is going to be talking about upstream, adding upstream value. You may recall, Dave, I don't know if you saw Gernot Strube's from McKinsey's presentation last year at our conference, but one of the things he was talking about is that, there's this huge shift over the next 15 years that McKinsey is anticipating, this huge shift all along the supply chain, all in the direction of offsite construction, right? Basically. And so one of the biggest areas at risk, if you will, for value is the general contractor. Because obviously the more construction is done offsite, the less the general contractor has to do. So it's interesting that the way Swinnerton has responded to this is to set up a wholly owned subsidiary called Timber Lab. This is where Erica works for. And they actually have a CNC machine. So this is a GC with a CNC machine who's buying glulam blanks and then fabricating and finishing them and doing the 3D modeling. And, this is how they're getting involved in this business, which I think is fantastic. Todd Bayreuther has been around for a long time in this sector and is now working, recently just signed up with Mercer International after they bought the Katerra plant in Spokane, Washington. Extremely knowledgeable. We're looking forward to his presentation. Patrick Chouinard, who to me is one of the great visionaries in the industry, of the mass timber industry. He always seems to be thinking out ahead, and you'll see what they've been doing. They've done some fantastic work, Dave, with which you would be, I think, really interested in. They've actually I think you had Patrick on your show, didn't you, at one time, Patrick Chouinard?
Yeah, I think, we have. Element 5, we did, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. And so Patrick, I think he probably talked about it when he was on your show, but they have developed, just as an example of productizing a building, they've developed a 4-story hybrid structure with CLT and steel. Wow. And they productized it, and they've now sold 5 of these. This is for affordable housing. And so it just goes to show that this actually is working. And they're in direct competition with steel and concrete on these bids, and they're winning them. So he'll be talking about that. They've also developed an envelope system so that they're able to offer not only the structural frame for a building, but also the envelope, basically, for the structure as well. So he'll be talking about that. Next slide.
Outstanding.
And I'll go through these quickly. The future of industrialized construction. So we have some phenomenal futurists here. First of all, we have Ryan Smith moderating. I've mentioned both Ivan and Ryan earlier with regard to their keynote.
Yep.
But this is a fantastic panel. BJ Siegel. BJ Siegel spent 14 years designing as the lead designer for Apple's retail stores. So, he left, and now, along with Jonathan Scher, they've founded a company called Juno, fascinating company. And I won't go into all the details, but this company is doing it exactly in the opposite way that Katerra did it. They're end to end, but they don't want to own anything. They basically want to work with the existing channel and put it all together. So they're kind of a designer integrator in a way. It's fascinating, and you'll hear more about that at the conference. Oliver Lang of Intelligent City has a company together in Vancouver, my former hometown, and where they're employing a lot of robotics and basically doing additive manufacturing. They're buying CLT blanks and glulam blanks, and they're building floor assemblies and wall assemblies and so on for structures. Lisa Podesto, I'm sure you probably know of Lisa with Lend-Lease. And Lend-Lease is doing a lot of work in futuristic work with respect to mass timber and mass timber projects all over the world. Next slide. Now, I don't know.
Familiar?
You know this moderator? I'm not quite. I don't know if I remember his name.
He's a pain in the butt. I can tell you that. This I don't need to certainly describe any of these people to you, Dave. But this is an all-star panel. For those who may not know, Vaughn Buckley is a phenom. He's how old is Vaughn now? He's early 30s still. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Vaughn is definitely in his early 30s, and he's your quintessential overachiever. He's one of these guys that you just can't figure out how he does all the things he does. He's an amazing person once you get to know him. Yeah,
I agree. And Vaughn has, in addition to, I think he owns 3 or 4 companies in the East. He's recently acquired the Katerra Tracy plant, which is a 577,000 square foot building. And he picked it up for a song, and he's going to do great things with that. Anyway, he'll be talking, I'm sure, about that and other things. Vaughn is one of the most knowledgeable people on volumetric modular in the country for sure. And then we have Rick Murdoch, who's got a long history with volumetric modular, initially with Gurdon, and now he has another company, AutoVol, which is loaded with robots. And Dave, you've been in that plant, haven't you?
Yeah, we did a live show from that plant and walked the show floor. So if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, just go to our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, and you can watch all of that. But yeah, it's an amazing facility, 400,000 square feet, and they got several lines, all fully robotic and automated.
Right. And then we have Helena Didlow again. So we won't go back over her background, but she's going to serve on this panel as well, which should be really, really interesting. Okay, next slide. Then we're going to have, as a topic, international ecologies. Another word for ecologies would be ecosystems. Basically, what this is all about is we're going to be looking at how offsite construction and mass timber, how it all got started in 3 different parts of the world, in Scotland or the UK with Robert Hairstens, in Sweden with Susan Rudenstam, and in Austria with Manfred Augustin. That should be very interesting. Next slide. ESG.
Yes.
ESG is, if you Google ESG and Wall Street, you will come up with hundreds of articles. This is the hot topic on Wall Street. Of course, it stands for environmental, social, governance. And it's the E in ESG that is what we focus on. The E is for environment, but it could also be for embodied carbon, because that's where a lot of the focus is shifting these days. It's shifting away from operational carbon toward embodied carbon, in other words, to the structure itself. So we want to know more about what it is and what impact it will have. And we've got 3 phenomenal panelists here to discuss that. Amy Tabb, Margaret Whalen, and Victoria Lockhart, all with us. And Bill Parsons will moderate. That should be a really interesting session as well. Next slide.
Yeah. Those are some heavy hitters on that screen. Wow.
There now, these are some. We're repeating a little bit of this. This is the steering committee for 2021. Yep. Dave was kind enough to serve on the committee this year, and we hope he will again next year. I haven't asked him officially yet, but
I'm in.
We'd love to have him with us again. And then you can see, of course, Pat Layton, Jerry McCaughey probably needs no introduction for most of you. The CEO of Integra, Ivan and Ryan, Ivan Ropnik, Ryan Smith, Bill Parsons, and Devin Perry from NAHB. And we want to offer our thanks to all these people for their contribution this year. It's tremendous. Next slide. Hey, there we are. And I'm gonna finish just very briefly here with a big announcement for us. We've been working on this for several months now, and we have come to an agreement with Greenbuild. We will be collaborating with Greenbuild, hopefully definitely in 2022, but hopefully thereafter as well. They go to Washington D.C. next year and Philly in 2024. We're really excited about this collaboration because, first of all, the timing. I mean, the timing is in terms of what's going on with climate change,
right,
and the focus on embodied carbon, as I was just mentioning. But also, we're excited about it because it's going to give our exhibitors and our speakers a much larger forum and a much larger audience. Greenbuild typically attracts 10,000 plus. You can go to the next slide. They've, I think, got some numbers here. Yeah, they typically attract 10,000 plus, 250 plus exhibitors, 80 plus product categories, and next slide. And I just finished with this, but we're going to have our own exhibit area. We're going to maintain our identity through all of this. But the good news is there will be no barriers between our exhibit area and that of Greenbuild. In other words, people will be able to wander to and fro and look at exhibits from both areas. And so, and we hope to have people attending our educational sessions as well from Greenbuild as well. So we're really excited. They're great people, and we're truly excited to be working with them going into the future.
That's awesome.
So that's it.
Awesome.
Oh, so, to register for IWBC, last little pitch here. It's www.iwbcc.com. And you will see when you get there a yellow button to register, and we certainly hope that that you will register. This is going to be a very interesting conference over the next few days.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really heavy hitters in those speakers. Just with that lineup, I saw you said Margaret Wheeling's name in there, Helena Didlow. I mean, these are all heavy hitters in our industry, Art. So congratulations for being able to pull such big players and knowledgeable players into the space to help drive this conversation forward. Listen, everybody, we are live right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Art, Twitter. We're live on Twitter now, too. So you can get your tweets on. Everybody get your tweets on. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. It helps us with all of our past and present content that we are doing. It means the world to us to keep growing that. And we love being the first to announce things. And today was one of those days. And I love the fact that, Art, before the show, you had the big announcement. I'll put it across the screen, right? The Greenbuild Expo with IWBC. I think that is a phenomenal thing to do. I mean, you're just going to reach that many more people with everything that you guys have going on. So congratulations to you and your partners and everybody else.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that.
Sure thing. It's funny enough, speaking of partners, we just had one pop in the window below. So we'll give them a few minutes and let them get settled in. So we're going to have Paul Yankee joining us here in just a few moments. So that'll be good. Art, is there anything that we want to let everybody know before I bring in the others? Is there anything you want to share? I mean, you've already given away we're giving away some free passes, and we'll wait for Paul to come on as well. You've already announced that you're merging your show with another big venue in California, which everybody loves going to California. That's a great place to be to have the show. I mean, what else is there, Art? I mean, come on, we're
I'm
giving away
sorry,
$1 million.
I don't I don't have any more surprises for you today. Those are the only two surprises, unless Paul and Brendan may have some surprises that I'm not aware of. I don't know.
Well, they might. Why don't we go ahead and hop right into this, and why don't we bring Paul Yankee into the show?
Fantastic.
Hey, Paul. Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, mute. He's on mute.
Can you hear us, Paul? Can't hear you. Let me see if I can help you on my end. I don't see that you're muted, but I might be able to adjust your mic settings. I cannot. All right. So, Paul, you're going to have to troubleshoot that on your end. If you go into the little cam mic dial there, you should be able to pick the microphone that you're currently using. It's one of those days for tech, right, Art? I mean, even before the show, we were having things weren't jiving right.
No, unfortunately.
So you never know. You never know. And we also have Brendan getting ready to join as well. So this is just going to get more and more exciting. Listen, everybody, while we're working through some of those things, you have to comment in the comment section. That's how you win your free all access pass. I got this cool little tool that's going to spin the wheel with all the names, and hopefully it works, and hopefully it's going to pick somebody. So just make sure you say, hey, I'm from wherever. Put a comment in there. Say hello. We're happy that you're here. So, Paul, how are we doing?
Can you hear me now?
Just fine.
Excellent.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, this is great.
So the actual drop-down menu didn't show anything. It just showed ... for my three choices. So I was just going through and randomly picking microphones, hoping I was going to pick one that actually worked. But it seems like I got it.
Hey, we're here. Listen, it's live, Paul. If it can go wrong, it does. It always does. I tell it, Art, I stopped worrying about that stuff a long time ago, because no matter how hard you try, some things are out of your control. But we're glad you're here, Paul. So we covered a lot of ground. We talked about IWBC and who all the speakers are. So Art walked us through all of that. Why don't you walk us through, a little bit about yourself? So why don't you just take 2 minutes and, introduce yourself to everybody. I'm going to put you full screen, so we haven't gone anywhere, and we'll come right back to you. But take a couple minutes and let us know all about Paul.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. So Paul Yankee, I do the lumber forecast here at FEA. So I started almost 30 years ago now. And I started covering all of the various wood products markets. So timber, lumber, panels, and slowly over my career, I focused in on lumber. And about, 13 years ago now, we started Forest Economic Advisors, Brendan and myself and two other partners. And we've grown from having no clients, and we started right at the heart of the Great Recession to now we have about 350 clients around the globe. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. How many people around the globe? Say it one more time.
So 350 clients around the globe. Wow. So our main business is forecasting. So we forecast the wood products markets. So essentially what I'm looking at is demand. For me personally, on the lumber side, demand and supply and costs and prices for lumber. And that obviously feeds through into homes through the framing lumber that you're using there, lumber that you use in doors and windows, trim, that sort of thing. And not just pricing, but also availability of that wood for people to use. And then as we move into the industrialized construction sector, as we're looking at taller buildings, then it feeds through into the availability of lumber for CLT. And, which I'm sure has been front and center on probably a lot of your listeners' minds over the past 2 years, is how much, not just is that wood going to be available, but how much is it going to cost to actually get that wood?
Right. Yeah. So let's, it's a hot topic. Lumber's a hot topic. Where are we with lumber these days, and the availability, the supply chain, and costs? Do you see costs leveling out more, or do you see it kind of going back in the opposite direction?
Yeah, so lumber prices actually obviously skyrocketed. They went up quite high to nominal record levels last year, and then they came off towards the end of the year. They started to come off a little bit, and then in the beginning of the year, we just had a really sharp run up in prices, and we saw prices go to record, not just nominal but real levels as well. So prices that we had never seen before for as long as we have data. which actually goes back pretty far. And so we had very, very high lumber prices. They since came off. And so we actually saw a bottom in wholesale lumber prices back in August. Prices moved sideways a little bit for a couple of weeks, and then they've shot back up again. So we bottomed out around, right around, if we're talking Western SPF lumber prices, which is a good benchmark, it's the price that's traded in the futures market. So we bottomed out around 385, and we are now almost double that. So we're up into the high 600s. So we've seen prices shoot back up, but while it's up a lot, it's nowhere near where we were when we peaked back in May at $1,600. So where do I see us going from here? You're likely to see lumber prices remain fairly strong over the next couple of months. So there's a couple of reasons for that. One, if you have any listeners down south, then they know just how wet it's been, and not just recently, but it's been wet for months. So when you have wet weather, the ground gets soaked, and you have heavy machinery going into the woods to harvest these trees. And if you have wet ground, you can't really get into the woods to harvest the trees. Right. So a combination of that all the moisture in the ground, and the fact that it's difficult to get people to actually do the difficult work of logging, chopping down the trees, and delivering them to the mills. So I have a story from one of my clients, I know it's anecdotal, but it actually crosses the industry. And I thought it was a pretty good story, where he said that he was taught, his son, who was a high school age kid, had gotten an offer for a job at the local noodle shop. And that job was paying $21 an hour. And he was like, that's what we pay our loggers. So if you have the choice of going out in the woods, firing up a chainsaw, chopping down a tree, which is hard, dangerous work, or going and serving noodles in a noodle shop, and you're going to make the same amount of money, what's your choice going to be? And, they're having, and Brendan can talk a lot more about this, but there's difficulty in getting labor to chop down the trees and bring them to the mills. So We're seeing, for one thing, over the next couple of months, because of that wet ground, and the difficulty in getting labor, we're seeing shortages of logs at the mill. Now, the wet ground can change. It's a La Nina year, so we're likely to see some drying in the U.S. South. So we will see that moisture leave the ground, and so we'll be able to get back into the woods. The logging availability, the labor force supply constraints, those are going to be with us for a while, and we're going to need to see wages start to go up. And I have a slide with some data on this, so I can show it during the IWBC in my speech tomorrow. But yeah, we've started to see labor rates going up at the mills. So the mills are going to be paying more money to try to draw some of this labor in. But again, this is going to take a little bit of time. So I would say, for the next 6 months or so, we're likely to see prices remain elevated. But then as we get out a little bit beyond that, we'll probably see prices come off. I have more reasons, but I'll stop talking and let you ask questions.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, this is what it's all about. So labor and skilled labor, and you guys are having a lot of conversations at a very high level. You're collecting the data. You're trying to understand the markets and how do we keep up with supply and demand. What are you seeing as trending, or how we're going to get labor back into the workforce? Are you having those conversations at all?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if Brendan's on or not. He's
trying. Let me. I don't have any camera on him. We'll try. Brendan, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, you're looking good today.
You never look better.
He's putting the wrong camera on.
Well,
what are you gonna do?
So Brendan, did you hear the question that David just asked?
Yeah, it was about labor and well, I mean, one of the.
So I'll answer.
I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, so I'll answer it from the lumber mill side, and Brendan can answer it from the more general economy side. Okay. So what we're seeing from the lumber mills is that they are starting to raise their wages. So what we saw in the latest data is that wages for the mills are going up anywhere between 5 and 15%. So I think Brendan's actually gonna join me in my office, make it a little bit easier.
There you go.
Yeah. So what we're seeing from the sawmills is that they're actually increasing their wages.
Right. So with the overall economy, one of the things that surprised policymakers is just the number of retirements. So we're down about 3.1 million workers from where we were prior to the pandemic. And about 2 million of those are people over the age of 55. And prior to the pandemic, for most of the last decade, that segment was really participating in the labor force at a much higher rate than they had in the past. A lot more jobs are less physical, people are healthier, so people didn't save enough for retirement. All these things contributed to that, but I think a lot of these folks who are older than 55 have really started to reevaluate their life, and they've left the labor force. So that's the question, and that's an issue for folks if you're in a repair and remodeling, if you're a trucker. Some of these jobs have an older workforce, so it's making it more difficult, to bring people in. So the offsite construction movement, we think can kind of in effect double the workforce. You bring more women in, you bring younger folks in certain segments, because a lot more of it's very similar to it's more technically driven, similar to a video game in some cases. A lot of the younger folks are more comfortable with that way of building. Yeah. So that's some of the trends we're seeing with labor. And as far as the trades go, if you look at the Association of General Contractors survey, they ask, are you having trouble filling the following trade positions? And they're all 70, 80, 88% we're having trouble. And what we're hearing is that some positions are harder to fill than others. Some, such as drywallers, are particularly hard to fill. Yeah. Positions that were dominated by immigration from Mexico are very hard to fill, because you don't have Mexican immigration to a large extent. So, and frankly, it's almost to the extent, if you can't fill them all, you can't finish the project.
That's right.
You have to fill them all, not just some trades. So that's an issue. Yeah.
Well, I was with at an event, Bloomberg News in Manhattan. Margaret Whelan was speaking, and Margaret's actually one of your speakers on your panel coming up. And even back then, and that's probably going back 3, 4, 5 years ago, it's not just the Mexican population. They're not having as many children as they used to. Was part of what they were talking about, let alone the amount coming into the country and being able to work legally. But there's also, they're just not having as many children.
It already happened. So the demographic thing is interesting, because you're not looking at what's happening now. What's happening now doesn't have much of an effect. It's what happened 15, 20 years ago. And that's where the baby bust happened in Mexico. And getting to just extending the conversation on demographics, the last 5 years, we've vastly underperformed in terms of population growth in the U.S. And some analysts are out there saying, wow, our population is not growing, that's going to kill housing. And like, no, the demographic tailwind is immense for housing, because we have a bulge of people coming into their prime home buying years in their 30s. The demographic kind of bust that we've seen in the last 5 years, that's going to have effects 15, 20, 25 years from now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. All right, listen, everybody, if you're just joining us, in about 5 minutes, we are going to give away an all-access pass to IWBC that is kicking off this week. In fact, we just went over the show notes on who the speakers are going to be, so please go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you missed the beginning of the show, you can watch it there. And we're going to give 20% off a corporate pass. That's right. So if you have several employees or partners or team members on your team that you'd like to attend, because the knowledge is worth it, and it really is, then we're gonna give that away as well. And the way we're giving that away is you get 20% off if you're a corporate and you're ending to want to sign up. Just let us know in the comments, and we will find you. We will hunt you down, and we will give you that discount. Or I should say, this guy over here, Art Schmoen, will hunt you down. Art, you know how long it took me to figure out I got to point in the opposite direction to make sure I point in the right direction? So why don't we go in and just see who's in the comment section and say some quick hellos? You guys good with that?
Sure.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. We got Charles Warfield. Good morning, Dave. Hey, Charles. Glad to see you. Oh, look at that. We got Mark Bare Naked Willie, Industrialized Wood-Based Construction Conference. Great to see you as well. Gilbert Meyer, all the way from Honduras. Hey, Gilbert, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for joining us today. Man, we're global today. Look at this. Andrew Wilkinson. Good evening, David, from across the pond. Awesome to see you as well, Andrew. Thank you. Let's go up to our good friends in Canada. Yay, DC live in the airport. Yeah, I'll be heading to the airport before too long. It looks like again. Hey, look at that. Mark's calling out your sponsor, Etienne Gubler. Are you watching? That's right. SIGA is the sponsor for IWBC. So SIGA, great to have you. Etienne is the SIGA North American CEO. So it's great to see him. Joel Hutchins. Got a lot of people commenting. I guess some people want to win this ticket to attend. I think that'll be great. Mike Treadwell tuned in from Burlington, North Carolina. Thanks, Mike, for tuning in. Dale Frederick saying good morning. This is what's so great about being able to give away passes, because there's people out there that want to go, but maybe it's just not in the budget, but they're getting there and they're growing. And I think this is such a great way to share the knowledge. Good afternoon from Log and Timber Connections. Will Leverett, how are you, Will? My goodness, look at all these people. Jeffrey Outlaw from Texas. Dale Frederick, Myrtle Beach. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with everybody putting in here from Spokane, Washington. So it looks like we're going to have a good run at people joining us today, which is a lot of fun. Joel's calling out Ivan. Hey, look at that. Jerry Dunn. Hola. Can you guys read that? Desde la Cuidad. In Mexico. Any of you speak Spanish? I think he's in Mexico. No.
Hello from the Mexico City.
There you go.
So, and Dave, just one quick point. So, and if you don't win the free pass, it's worth every penny to go ahead and buy one. It's IWBCC.com, and then just hit register.
Yeah, there you go. And we're going to put that up there as well. We'll put it in the show notes so everybody knows where to go. This is a lot of fun. Look at that. There's Etienne, sponsor, IWBC. Etienne, good to see you. Thank you so much. Without sponsors, these shows can't really happen at all. You need the sponsors. You need the people that help us share the knowledge. So, Etienne, thank you so much. Andrew Seeley, just getting here. Always glad to join this group. We got a couple more we'll say a quick hello to. We got Buzz in the house. What's happening, Buzz? And Mac Norrie talking about great panels. So, hopefully you guys recognize some of these names that are in there. And if I missed you, my apologies. I didn't mean to do that. There you go. Brett Jones as well, if I didn't say that. All right, listen. Got to say hello in the comments if you want your chance to win the Industrialized Wood-Based Conference. And if we do this wheel and Jennifer in the background who's writing comments and talking to people wins, well, we'll do the drawing again because that just can't happen. But it's potential, right? I don't control that. Let's go back into a little bit of this conversation, because the one thing that we didn't do, Brendan, is give you a chance to introduce yourself and who you are and a little bit about your background. Why don't you do that so everybody's really familiar with you and your story? And then when we're done with that, if there's anything that you guys would like to share before we do the drawing, we'll do it at that time, and then we'll close out the show with the drawing. Sound good?
Sure.
That's great.
Sure,
all right, Brendan, you're up. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Brendan Lowney. I'm the other co-founder of FEA. My main responsibility here is doing the macroeconomic and housing and other end uses forecast that we use as the basis of our demand projections for all our industry projections for the wood products and timber that we cover. I've been doing this sort of thing for about 26, 27 years now. And this is really exciting times in the construction industry. The genesis of this conference actually started by Paul and myself and Art just looking at some mega trends in the industry and realizing that something has to change. And namely, the big mega trends were that labor was getting scarce. This is even before the pandemic, and for a variety of reasons. And that construction productivity is just not going to cut it. So we have a real shortage of housing in the U.S. It's been long-standing. We've been underbuilding until very recently. We've been underbuilding relative to underlying demand for more than a decade. And, the industry just simply has not been able to keep up for a variety of reasons. And then we're looking at certain key jobs in the supply chain, truckers, loggers, certain contracting trades, and seeing that the average age is is really creeping up there, and there really isn't a swell of people to replace them coming through. So, we started this conference, and it's been really exciting times.
Yeah. I bet it has been exciting. Starting a conference is one thing. Putting a conference together is another thing. And then running a successful conference is a whole nother thing. And you guys are into this for quite a few years now, and it's clearly working, and clearly a lot of people are interested. So congratulations. Go ahead, Art.
No, I was just going to say, and we're, as I mentioned earlier, for those of you who weren't tuning in, we're really excited about next year as well. We are going to be collaborating with Greenbuild. It's
Right.
basically moving IWBC into the big time. So we're excited.
The big time. You're going to the big house. That's awesome. I mean, it's going to go from, 1,000 or 2,000 people to 10,000 people. I mean, that's a big deal. That's not a little deal. That's a big deal.
That's right. I mean, our exhibitors, the people who exhibit at IWBC / Greenbuild next year are going to have the opportunity to show their stuff to as many as 10,000 people live.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's another mega trend that has recently emerged, aside from the lack of productivity in the sector and the labor shortages, and that's this whole notion of ESG, particularly the E, environmental, social, and governance, that's really dominated the conversation among publicly traded companies. And building with wood is a really important part of making this industry greener, right? Replacing concrete, to a lesser extent steel, with renewable, carbon-absorbing, carbon-storing wood products is key to helping firms meet some of these non-profit related goals that they have.
Yeah, and certainly from a climate perspective, moving away from concrete and towards wood in our buildings is great from a climate perspective. But there's also a financial incentive, which right now is pretty much 100% being captured by the people who are growing the trees and capturing the carbon. And what do I mean by that? Well, the carbon market right now is pretty much limited to, it's California, Quebec, Ontario. So it's not really widespread across the US. And it's in those areas, it's about growing the trees. But there's capturing the carbon, and then there's storing it, right? So you can capture all the carbon that you want, but you need to do something with it, because if you don't put it somewhere, then eventually it's going to be released back into the atmosphere. And what do I mean by that? Well, you grow your tree, and if you just leave your tree standing there, eventually the tree is going to die, fall over, decompose, and the carbon goes back in the atmosphere. Or what's become more likely recently, there's going to be a fire, which is going to pump major amounts of carbon back into the atmosphere. And over a short time period. So if you could actually go out there, harvest those trees, turn it into a product, then that carbon gets stored as long as that product remains in existence. And we're seeing, so if you think about putting it into CLT and then into a building, that carbon can be stored for centuries. And even that, we're seeing recycling of some of these. We're seeing companies start to look into recycling wood from inside buildings, so it could be stored for a very, very long periods of time. And so there's that whole financial aspect of how do we look at the carbon markets, and how do we allocate the resources from the capturing the carbon at the tree to storing it. And I think that those are some of the questions that we're certainly looking at, and that there's a whole nother financial component to this aside from just the environmental side.
Right. And namely, it's speed to completion. That's so Paul mostly discussed, and myself, the wood aspect, but the off-site aspect. You increase your speed with which you can build these buildings, and even if it costs the same, and I believe that Marriott and Hilton are finding that the costs are about the same to build the traditional way or with modular wood-based construction, they free up the money in half the time. So this is something that's attractive from a financial perspective to developers, and as well as a carbon sequestration perspective.
Dave, I noticed also a question here.
Yeah.
just looking at these questions, are there going to be any wood alternatives? Example, rhizome. And the answer, certainly in our conference, we welcome, we're wide open basically to new technologies, whether they involve wood or hybrid construction. But certainly, something like rhizome, a bamboo-based building material, people are welcome to exhibit there, or they're welcome to, send us an email if they want to speak on a certain topic. If it's interesting and we have an expert, then we're wide open to that. So yeah.
Perfect. We got one more question, and then we're going to be out of time here. Let's pop it up here. From Sony says, question all world. Well, let me see. American F1.
Yeah, I don't think you. I don't know if this is related to our topic.
I don't know where he's going with that. Hey, the Mod Coach International. Hello, good guys. Great. I see you at BCMC in the other week. Yep. I will be doing BCMC, and we also will be in Harrisburg, PA, Wednesday for the MHBA, Modular Home Builders Association's annual meeting. So we'll be doing that as well. I'm glad you guys caught that comment there before I did. All right, so let's hop into it. So this is your last chance. Go ahead and say hello. Tell us where you're from. If you want a chance to win this ticket, this is a first now, so let's hopefully technology plays nice with our way of doing this, but let's see how it's going to work. You guys ready for this? Exciting times. All right, let's try it.
The giveaway tool. There we are.
Uh-oh, it says 0 entries. Let's see what's going on here. Wouldn't that be a bummer? All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but my thought is this. So we are going to have Jennifer, if you could take a look. I want you to pick one lucky winner from this poll, put it in a hat, and we're going to try and do this drawing one more time here. Now, for Paul and Art, I know we've been you were having a tough time coming in. I don't know if there's a software glitch or something that's not playing nice with us today on our tool. But Jennifer is going to work on that. We're going to pull one lucky winner. We're going to put it out there. Also, if you are, and I say it again, if you are looking to, here we go. I think we got it. Actually, give me 1 second. I think it's working in the background. We got it. There it goes. You guys see that?
Yeah. Hey,
John Magnan won.
Nice.
All right, John Magnan, look at you. You're the lucky winner. Impressive Modular, and he's been doing some other stuff. So John Magnan is the winner. Not sure why it took a while, but who knows what's going on in the world of internet today. So we have John as the winner, and I love it. I love it. I love it. So, gentlemen, we are out of time. Is there anything that you want to leave with us? And one last thing, too, if anybody's out there and you want a corporate pass and you want 20% off, please put it in the comments below, and we will reach out to you right away. So, look at that. John says he's stoked. All right, John, listen, that's a $600 value, my friend. You're going to see a lot of great things and hear from a lot of great people. I'm glad you were the lucky winner, and I'm glad I was able to get that thing to work. I was sweating, but that's what I said. You can't sweat it when it's live. It's just the way it goes.
Great to have you with us, John.
Thanks for taking the time to listen today, guys. And thanks for taking the time to have us on, Dave.
Dave, thank you for this opportunity. We're very grateful that you've given us this opportunity to tell folks about IWBC, and we hope we see you all with us beginning tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely starting tomorrow, and tune in on Wednesday for my session on modular. We're going to be having a great conversation. You're not going to want to miss it with Vaughn Buckley, Rick Murdoch, and Helena Didlow, 3 top modular volumetric experts out there. We're not only going to talk about labor, we're going to talk about technology, when it should use, when it shouldn't be used, and is modular for every project? We're going to talk about that as well. You might be surprised what you hear and what you learn. Again, register below, IWBCC.com, IWBCC.com. And thank both of you, three of you, for taking time out of your busy day to come on Dave Cooper Live and share your knowledge and share the information. And hey, listen, I think after the event, maybe we should have you pop in, Art or Paul or Brendan, any of you, say, hey, let's talk about how it went real quick before we hop into one of our other shows. So don't go anywhere, everybody. We will see you from Harrisburg, PA. This week we'll be out there. And they said it earlier. We have Unbuild It on this Friday. That's right, Unbuild It, where they are taking the reclaimed lumber and the reclaimed products out of homes. They're not just tearing it down and throwing it in a dumpster. They are unbuilding it. It's going to be a great show this Friday, 1 p.m. All right, gentlemen, stay right there. I'll come back to you after the outro. Everybody else, have a wonderful day. John Magna, congratulations.